pull out your 2020 bingo card and tell me that you had ransomware as a reason why schools were going to get closed in January of 2022. Bet you didn't have it. If you did, comment down below because you deserve a heart. It's amazing. FinalSite, a vendor for thousands of K-12 and higher ed schools around the world, has just been hit with ransomware. First, we're going to talk about what exactly FinalSite is, then we're going to go through a timeline of the events that happened because it's kind of interesting. We'll also talk about some very important details from these events that you'll need to be able to know about. Now first, what is FinalSite? FinalSite is a company that provides software as a service, or SaaS. It provides this service to over 8,000 K-12 and higher ed schools around the world. These services go from everything from content management systems to email notification systems to websites to the grading systems to calendar, all of it. Everything that a school could possibly need on the internet. Something that FinalSite does not do actually as a service is hit that like button. So make sure that you make up for it by doing that right now so that way the YouTube algorithm stops giving me dirty looks. Now let's talk about the timeline. On January 4th, FinalSite released their first statement, basically saying that some functionality and services were being disrupted and they didn't really provide any root causes. They did, however, say that an investigation into the matter was ongoing. This was followed by a number of releases throughout the day, basically just reiterating the same thing. They included some of the error logs that users might catch, but other than that, nothing terribly interesting. On January 5th, the string of the same kinds of releases continued until 9:05 a.m. That's whenever the Chief Client Officer, Tim McDonough, officially made a statement. And this is where things get pretty interesting. Up to this point, no root cause had been declared. In the initial releases, an error had been provided. However, there was really no explanation as to what was prompting the error or some of the reasons why this disruption was occurring, especially at the broad scale that it was. Or even for that matter, that it was happening on a broad scale. I say that to say that at this point, there's no reason to assume that at this point it is a security incident. That is until the statement is made. Tim shares that the disruption was continuing and, quote, "Upon learning of this activity, we immediately took steps to secure our systems and to contain the activity, including proactively taking certain systems offline. We are working diligently with third-party specialists to investigate the source of this disruption, confirm its impact on our systems, and to restore the full functionality of our systems as quickly and safely as possible." That's an interesting statement to make if it's just a networking problem. In fact, this implies that it is indeed a security issue, though it certainly is not a full confirmation. How does it imply? Well, why would you need to take systems offline if it's just a networking issue? The status updates resume kind of in their normal flow, basically just reiterating that the disruption was continuing, but the investigation was ongoing until about 6:10 p.m. That's whenever Tim makes another statement, basically just saying that the restoration was beginning. However, despite it beginning, it was taking longer than anticipated. Another very interesting release happened right after that release, basically saying that users may not have access to admin logins. Finally, at 12:04 p.m. on January 6th, FinalSite released a statement confirming that this is in fact a ransomware incident. Basically, they confirmed that on January 4th, their security team had discovered the ransomware had occurred, and they immediately began taking steps to contain the outbreak by turning systems off, preventing the spread, and attempting to restore infected systems to full functionality. All of this with conjunction of a third party. Now, they do not believe at this moment that any client data was impacted or stolen. They also say in this statement that they couldn't release that this was a ransomware event earlier due to the nature of the investigation. Now, that might sound weird to you if you're not working in cybersecurity, or this might be the first time you're seeing kind of a ransomware event happen like this. For security teams, especially whenever an attacker is still active in your network, it can be beneficial to try to not tip your hand that you are aware that the attacker is active in your network, so that way you can try to catch the attacker in a honeypot. If you make a public statement basically declaring that you're aware that they're there, then they might immediately try to withdraw access, and you may lose any ability to be able to catch any sense of attribution or any forensics data. That forensics data can be very important long term to be able to lead to a conviction. That said, there are legal reporting requirements that have to be met. For instance, federal law requires critical infrastructure operators to report to CISA any cyber attacks within 72 hours of their discovery, and federal agencies and private sector organizations with more than 50 employees are required to report any ransomware payments made within 24 hours, according to this article by Lawfare, and I've linked it down in the description. Now, it doesn't necessarily mention educational institutions or nonprofits or anything like that. And where FinalSite falls within that, I'm not exactly sure. So as far as their legally mandated reporting requirements, frankly, I'm not 100% sure on what they need to do or when they need to do it. However, it is important to note that they did publicly acknowledge that a ransomware event had occurred within 72 hours of when they suspected the ransomware event took place on January 4th. If you know more about kind of what these reporting requirements are supposed to look like for an organization like FinalSite, please do comment below. I'm very interested in learning more about that. In either case, at 12:04 p.m. on January 6th, that is whenever we got confirmation that this is a ransomware incident. From there, the standard messaging kind of resumes, including this really funny message that I enjoyed, oops, and then this continues into January 7th, the date of this recording. That's where they say that the majority of the front-end sites are back up and running, but there is still a lot of back-end work to be done, and a lot of the front-end capabilities may be reduced. So really, that is a lot of information, and what can we really take away from this? We can take away that FinalSite was hit by ransomware, and they detected it on the 4th, and they announced it publicly on the 6th. They do not believe that any client data has been impacted or stolen. As of now, the investigation is still ongoing. The method that the attacker was able to gain entry and upload the ransomware has not yet been determined, at least publicly. And it's also not yet known who the attacker is, but for all we know, that actually may never be known. Now, so far, what do we know is the impact? Up to 5,000 schools may have been impacted to some degree. Now, I like to always be wary of claims that are made by social media, but according to this Reddit post by an alleged engineer at FinalSite, many districts were actually not even able to notify families that the school was closing temporarily due to COVID or weather. This is particularly brutal at this specific point in time, given the rapid surge of the new variant. Now, obviously, we are super early in this event, and there's still a lot of questions left to be answered. I do follow up on these stories on my Twitter, and you can follow me at @sec_studio, and that is basically where we can get a lot of the updates on the stories that I talk about on this channel as more information comes out. Typically, what's happened so far with previous stories that we've talked about on this channel is the information comes out piecemeal, so it's not necessarily beneficial to make a whole new video on, just a specific fragment of information on past stories that we've talked about. So do follow me there if you're interested specifically in this story. I'll be sure to retweet anything I see. Now, believe it or not, this cyber attack is actually directly related to the last video that I posted on 2022 cyber threats. You should check that video out right now. Also, be sure to like this video because this video and channel is free and the impact of the like button is high. See you all next time. Bye.